Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail, and I'm excited to be joined on today's episode by Tyler Lusebrink. Tyler is the head of brand partnerships of RedVest Media at Ace Hardware. We're going to talk to Tyler about the retail media efforts at that leading home improvement brand and retailer, and kind of a little bit about the prove it era of retail media. So Tyler, I thank you for joining me on today's show.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you for having me. Excited to spend some time with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. So let's kind of get right into it. Tell us a little bit. Retail media has really grown quickly. It's become a core part of many retailers' businesses, but it currently is, and I alluded to it, kind of in this bit of a prove it era where both the advertisers want to see kind of that return and the retailers want to prove that out to attract more brands to advertise with them. So with that in mind, kind of this shift in what we're seeing in the retail media arena, what are brands now expecting that they possibly weren't even a few years ago?
Yeah, what a great question to start with. You know, the biggest thing that we've seen over the course of the last 2 to 3 years is retail media in general has moved to more of a material line item, right? It's no longer that secondary line item in a P&L where they're saying, hey, let's funnel some test dollars into it. Now it's something that's being heavily scrutinized, and there's a lot of eyeballs on it, from the CFO to the CMO of a brand. You know, they're looking at the fragmentation of all these different retail media networks, and they're saying we need to see outcomes, and we need to ensure that our dollars are driving our business at the store level. And so where we're seeing that come to life generally across RedVest is, you know, proof of impact. We have brand partners that are coming to us and they're saying, you know, we've got to get beyond just clicks or attributed sales at this point. We need to have confidence that, you know, the media has changed outcomes that wouldn't have occurred absent the investment. Speed and transparency continues to be something that we're being asked about, right? Like, we need to have clear levers that we can pull, faster reads, reporting that we can action against in real time. And I think the biggest one, especially over the course of the last 6 months, is this focus on strategic integration or strategic partnerships within a retailer. And that looks like merchandising all the way to brand partners, and within our unique model down to our independent retailers as well, to ensure that we're not activating retail media in a silo. And Ace is in a really unique position. We've been around for over 100 years, and part of our focus is brand building, and it's having the best brands that our shoppers have come to know. And so we have this really tight integration across those three groups, which I think makes us uniquely positioned to show up against some of the challenges that our brand partners are bringing to us.
So I like the way you refer to it. It's really kind of become a highly scrutinized medium. With that in mind, as spend increases, right? As advertisers continue to spend more on retail media, how should retailers and their brand partners be thinking about measurement? Kind of the process that you go through at Ace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a big shift from just reporting now to decision-driven measurement. And even prior to the expansion of AI, there's been a constant question, and brands want to have a consistent pulse on what's happening right now that I can action against. And is there a decision that I can make to help improve the outcome of this campaign? And so in practice, we think about it in really three ways: trust and standards. Part of us launching the network, we were very intentional about working with a partner in Epsilon that was MRC accredited third-party measurement. They want to know that they can trust what they're seeing, that it's standardized, and that their investment directly had an impact. And it's something that they can float back up, like I mentioned, to their CFO or their CMO. So trust and standards is absolutely something that is important. Closed loop outcomes. This is table stakes, right? You have to be able to connect an exposure directly to any purchase outcomes that are occurring, which sounds simple in nature, but you know, Ace has 5,200 stores. We're massive as a retailer. We've got 3,000 independent retailers that own those 5,200 locations. And so connecting inventory levels to the sales impact from a media standpoint across their stores was a challenge initially, but it was something that we were able to solve for as we launched the network. And so we can give an accurate read to our brand partners that are investing in the network. And then real-time learnings. I know I touched on this briefly, but we're moving beyond waiting until after the campaign, you know, 4, 5, 6 weeks after the campaign to really have any sort of insight into how we can optimize. It has to be immediate. The brand has to be able to see that performance, and they have to be able to have those learnings that they can optimize against.
So now that you've identified what you're looking at in terms of measurement with the brand partners that you work with, Tyler, I'm curious as to what success in retail media looks like for those brand partners as well as for Ace Hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like success is evolving in real time. It's still very much objective driven. And I think that's the value of any retail media network is being able to action on precise objectives of a brand, but the bar is higher. Brands want confidence that the results are accurate, that they're standardized, which we had talked about, that they're meaningfully tied to retail growth and not just media metrics. And so success looks different for a category leader, right? We've got amazing brands within our stores, Milwaukee, Stanley, Black& and Decker, Weber, et cetera. And if you're a major brand that's been around for 40, 50, 60 years, you're often measuring success a little bit differently than an emerging brand that's trying to earn and grow distribution across 3,000 plus independent retailers. And so our job as a network is to sit down and help define what those right success metrics are up front. And then we measure it in a way that everyone trusts on the back end.
So I want to come back to that kind of integration piece that you alluded to earlier, Tyler, and thinking about connecting media and merchandising, and then obviously that moment of decision, that sales cycle. Why is that so important? And what does that look like in practice at RedVest Media? You mentioned obviously the breadth of your store operation, different regions of the country, or working in kind of this big ecosystem, but you need to connect the media, merchandising, and sales across the journey for that advertiser. Tell us a little bit about that at RedVest Media.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, retail media works best when it's anchored in the fundamentals of retail, right? If not for the physical retail components, it would just be another media execution that our brand partners could purchase. And so we look at it as, is it driving demand in the right places? Is it amplifying the right products? And is it something that our customers can find? If you think about Ace and the way that our shoppers are engaging with the store, they're often shopping us for three reasons. The first one is we've got those brands that I mentioned that they're coming in for. They want to touch, they want to feel, they want to engage with them, whether maybe it's a new power tool or a new grill or smoker that they're looking to purchase. So they want to come in and they expect the quality brands that we carry. The second piece is the convenience factor. 75% of Americans live within 15 minutes of an Ace. And so they can generally shop our stores in quick order. And, if it's a project based shopping journey, like a nursery that you need to paint or resodding your lawn, that convenience factor is important. But the third piece is it helpful? And can I come in and our associates helping guide those customers to the products that they need based on their project? And I say all that because when we think about the effect that media can drive in complementing that customer journey, it's incredibly important. And it's incredibly important that we amplify the right products based on what the merchandising priorities are, the seasonality that they're focused on, that we're in stock when the customer is coming in because they have that last minute need that they need to find. And so our merchants, as I said, they're heavily invested in the network because they do see it as a tool to help them achieve their category priorities. We constantly meet with them to understand what their objectives are, their big bets. That ultimately builds a lot of context as we align with our brand partners on their objectives. It's no longer, again, like I mentioned, working in a silo. It's how do we make the shopping journey more helpful, get the customer into our stores, finding the products they need as quickly as possible. And so RedVest ultimately, we see it as a bridge that ensures that we're reaching the right customers and measuring what's actually happening in store and online as well.
Yeah, I was going to mention that online piece. I want to follow up there about the alignment, particularly as you mentioned, kind of the fundamental of having those inventory levels, management in terms of making sure when you're promoting different product and different brands that that product is in stock. So tell us a little bit more about how you're ensuring that your media campaigns are truly aligned with that inventory and that in-store execution, and then what purchase behaviors you're seeing based on season, geography. There's many different factors at play here. So maybe if you could touch on that a little bit, Tyler.
Yeah, when we stood out to launch the network, which we've only been in market for 6 months, we knew that we needed to have, in order to have a retail media network that was going to provide value for our partners and for our customers, we needed to have a longitudinal, deterministic view of who they were. And oftentimes our partners don't know that we have over 70 million lifetime rewards members that are engaging with Ace Rewards on an ongoing basis. And so that helps us to have an understanding of when are they entering a brand, when are they leaving a brand, what's most relevant to them based on their unique purchasing journey over the last 6 or 12 months. And so we started with that to ensure that, again, we knew who our customers were, we knew what products were going to be helpful to them, and we knew that there would be value for our brand partners as well. As far as the awareness of real-time inventory, we're tied in, as I said, very closely with what's happening at the store level. And so we're only activating media for partners when we know that the product is in stock and a customer can actually find it. The journey of the ACE consumer is very omni-channel. It oftentimes starts across our site where they're checking for a product, seeing if it's in stock at their local store, and they're either ordering online and picking up in store, or they're seeing that it's in stock and they're heading to their local retailer to purchase. And so we're not activating unless we know for certain that it's a product they can actually find. And then finally, the closed loop outcomes, right? It's measuring not just the online behavior. Generally there's this misunderstanding that retail media is an e-com tool. Even, 6, 7, 8 years into retail media now, we still have brands say, well, is it leaning towards e-com? The reality is we're not missing a sale that's occurring after an exposure, whether they come to our site and they order online. If they come in store, which we still see, like many retailers, a large percentage of our transactions occurring physically in store, we can track those sales in real time and then report those back up to our partners. And then the last thing that I'll mention, especially as we think about the expansion of our network over the next 3 to 4 months, we launched with in-store signage as a part of our full funnel portfolio in October. And we laughed because what's old is new again. It's your physical signage, you come in and you see it. But what we found is it's a true complement to those digital journeys that start on our site and they see an ad and then they can tie that into the equity that they're seeing at the store level as well. Beyond that, we're also exploring in-store audio. So we have an upcoming pilot that we're going to be launching across 1,000 stores with a few select partners. And we're incredibly excited to see how that performs and helps further drive the connectivity of the first party data to the relevancy of seeing an ad, ultimately to a purchase that might happen at the store level.
Yeah, that consistent experience, you're creating that through line between these channels, right? So that to your point, they might be going first to your website before even stepping foot into a store. So it's kind of reinforcement there as well.
Absolutely. Reinforcing the messaging that they've come to trust, reinforcing the helpful nature of how, again, the media might be serving a purpose and reducing the barrier to starting a project, to, getting the decking screws that they need to build that new deck in the backyard. And in stores is certainly a component to help tell that story and ease the burden to find the products that they need.
So I want to bring technology into the conversation here real quickly. We've talked about inventory level alignment, and obviously there's systems working behind the scenes there and enabling that. So how are you seeing at RedVest Media AI and data and other technology transforming how decisions are being made, both internally at RedVest Media at Ace Hardware, as well as with the advertisers that you're working with?
Yeah, great question. And certainly the hot term within retail media. The biggest impact that we're seeing so far is that it's moving retail media from set it and monitor to continuous optimizations. And that matters because, like we talked about earlier, brands want to know how networks like RedVest are delivering better outcomes when a campaign's live. Where we see the most value today within our walls is with audience and bid optimization in real time. And so instead of us picking a small subset of audience segments that we think are going to be relevant to the ad based on the brand and some of the purchase data that we have, we're actually leaving it up to AI to optimize into the customers that are most likely to engage based on their real-time purchase journey and purchase engagement. And in doing so, we've seen a direct correlation to stronger performance as a result of this shift. So it's something that we're happy with and we'll continue to lean into. The second one is faster decisioning for partners, right? Better signals, smarter optimization means brands can ultimately get to the what should we do next sooner. And so those are two areas that we're hyper focused. Longer term, we're focused on applying AI in a way that's responsible and helpful across our ecosystem. Is it helpful to our customers? Is it helpful to our merchant partners? And ultimately, is it helpful to those independent retailers as we look to support their stores?
Yeah, those are a couple of core areas, use cases that you've talked about in terms of the impact and positive impact that AI can have on the operations. I guess I'll wrap with this, Tyler. My final question in terms of, you're in a unique position, obviously, from internally, a retailer, but also working with your brand partners at RedVest Media. I'd love for you to kind of offer some advice for our retailers in the audience, potentially also some of the brands in our audience that are looking to really build out these more full funnel partnerships with their retail media partners.
Yeah, well, good question. And look, I'd start with this. Treat retail media as a broader part of the commercial plan, not a standalone line item. Remove any silos that exist. The strongest partnerships align on what you're trying to accomplish for the customer, for the category, and for the retailer as well. And media should really be an accelerator and a complement to all the moving pieces within an organization. In order for that to work, though, it has to be a full funnel system across all three or all four. Awareness only works when it connects to consideration and conversion. And so in categories like ours within the hardware channel, it has to be a consistent in-store and online experience. There's the trope now that traditional funnel no longer exists. And I think that's true. It's more linear, and the customer is jumping from one modality to another modality. And you really have to be able to connect the two together based on their ability to transact at any time. So I think reducing friction, finally, I'll say as well, really keep in mind, how can you reduce friction for the customer shopping journey? At Ace, we've recently announced that we've got a last mile delivery partnership with Uber Eats and DoorDash. And so that's just another way for us to reach a customer in a convenient manner, for us to expand into a new audience segment that had previously not purchased an Ace. And so if you can create a network that feels truly helpful, that feels integrated across the different functions within an organization, I think you'll be set up for success.
Well, I appreciate you offering some sound advice for our retailers and brands in the audience that are looking to strengthen their retail media programs. I want to take the opportunity to thank Tyler Lusebrink. Tyler, again, is the head of brand partnerships of RedVest Media at Ace Hardware. I've really enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you for your time, Tyler.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talk is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.